How we doing, Dan? We got ourselves
Good. How's everything going with you?
going okay, just
I
fucking getting
think we
by.
should check in on what's going on at MSNBC.
Yeah, we do a quick check-in on Joy Reid over here. I should have had the video primed, but here it is.
Take a deep breath for just a moment and ponder big balls.
Big balls.
Here we go.
There we go. And for that, I've got ourselves a special intro for today. Han, it's another week. We've still got a president. Hasn't been shot yet, which is, kind of surprising in a way.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Like, he's pretty unique, but I feel like he's been able to kind of spread enough of himself out among people. Elon, on the other hand,
That's a good point.
I mean, his kid is at every meeting, but the kid can't write yet, probably.
And I was gonna actually go into this while we were watching some of the videos, but now's as good a time as any since we're on that. I like that he has his kid with him everywhere. I like that. Like, it shows that you care about your child. It shows that, and his thing about like birthright, or like birth numbers going down, and you have to have the replacement level in order to maintain civilization. Like, he's doing his part. And one of the coolest things like about motocross is what I like about it the most is that it's a family sport. Like, you cannot do it on your own until you're 18, 20 years old and you've got the money to do it. Like, you're, with your family, you're traveling in a motorhome. And like when we traveled, we would leave Friday night, we'd drive all night Friday, get to the racetrack late. Saturday, Sunday were races, then we drive back, and it was, me, my mom, my dad, and my sister would go too. And she acted like she hated it, but she didn't. She loved it.
She just went and fucked off with the other kids, right?
Exactly. For her,
Think about how much fucking confidence that kid's gonna have.
Yeah, I know.
I used to hop on. I'm not Monica Lewinsky, and I was under the president's desk once.
Yeah, and so in moto, like for years now, for the entire history of Supercross and motocross, you were essentially done at 30 years old. Like, you just couldn't be competitive against the younger kids, especially if you had some injuries. But now, like, we've come a long way in like health and wellness and recovery and different they don't really drug test in moto. So a lot of them are juicing, which they should be able to juice, And they're riding now into their 30s. A guy just won his first race on Saturday. He's been a pro forever, and he won his first race at 32. And now these guys are coming out in opening ceremonies with their kids on the front of their bikes, and
That's
they'll bring their kids up on the podium and talk with them. And it's always glory to God and family. And like, it's just things that you don't see in the Super Bowl. Like, you watch the Super Bowl and you go, oh, this is a completely different thing. This is a corporate ad space, where moto is like a family sport that hasn't really broke out. It's a niche sport and not a ton of people watch it. And like, yeah, you can get up on the podium with your kid and talk about God and nobody says a word about it.
Yeah. I think the NFL's losing its way pretty far. I know that the NBA has like been dropping viewership.
Yeah.
I don't know that people ever got into basketball the way you get into football. I've never seen anybody get in a fist fight over basketball teams. But it's starting to go like I thought the halftime show was awful.
I didn't see it. I should have watched it.
It might have been there was a free app that Fox did, and it might have been that stream. But like, even I don't hate Kendrick Lamar's music, which is rare for somebody that's put anything out in the last 20 years. But the production and the sound quality and everything was just awful. And it might have been the app. Like, I might have had a better experience if I paid $80 a month for cable or something, but I won't.
YouTube TV, which just keeps going up in price because it's not
over
profitable.
$80 now.
Yeah, it's not profitable. You have to keep jacking it up. It's ridiculous. No, I didn't watch it. I should have watched it because I'm a podcaster and I need to be able to comment on these type of things. I didn't think about that until right now. But my favorite part of the halftime show was watching all the old white people react to the halftime show, where they're just like sitting on their couch like, what are we watching? Like, this is entertainment? And you can just see the bewilderment on their face. And it's like, that's the majority of the people watching like football and TV is like older white folks, you know? And it's like,
Yeah, and
who are
people
you
are like, if
playing
you
to?
didn't get the halftime show, it wasn't for you. It wasn't meant for you. Well, yeah, it should be meant for me. I
Exactly.
am the demographic that spends money. My wife, like usually the woman in the household is the person that you want to reach because they make the purchasing decisions. And she was just turned off by it. And she doesn't hate rap either. It's not just like, oh, they had a black up there dancing. No, I thought that the Dr. Dre Super Bowl halftime was one of the best ones ever. It wasn't the music, it was just fucking awful.
Yeah. Yeah. And like all like on Twitter for the last, since the Super Bowl and the halftime show, all they're showing is like the Creed halftime show, which was really good. And like I liked Creed's music, and like that's kind of the demographic that you should be playing to in something like this, Uncle Ted. There was a great video of Uncle Ted playing the Star Spangled Banner on his guitar in
That's
Austin,
probably
and
a little polarizing.
that may be a little bit too much, but AC/DC that we just listened to, that'd be great. They're not polarizing at all. They could go out there and play Hell's Bells and just kill. Everybody would love it.
Speaking of artists that would have been better than Kendrick at the Super Bowl, did you see that came out that Kid Rock and Lori Brobart, the senator from Colorado, were seen getting into a cab together 2:30 in the morning after the inauguration?
So badass.
Yeah.
What a bad dude. She's hot. I don't care what anybody says. She's fucking hot for a congresswoman. She's got a big fake rack. She was giving some dude a hand job inside of a fucking opera in Colorado. Like, yeah, she's fun.
And she thinks
she's
the
hot.
Earth is flat.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like I like her. Like she's fucking out there, but I like her. I like Nancy Mace too. Nancy Mace is pretty decent for an older
Fuck that
congresswoman.
bitch.
Yeah, you don't like her?
No, she's a fraud.
I'm sure she is. I don't care. She's hot.
Oh yeah. Did are you sure?
Yeah, for an older lady in Congress, when we're talking Congress, rankings, she's up there for sure.
Yeah, I guess.
When she's all
If
done
you wanna
up, she
get
looks
into
pretty good.
Looking Congress people, we can just go to the what's her name?
Anna Paulina.
Yeah. Well, let's finish this topic though. Oh fuck, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Yeah. Also for the record, if any rapper should have been on stage at the Super Bowl in New Orleans, it should have been Lil Wayne. But Lil Wayne endorsed Trump. And Jay-Z is a pedophile.
Yeah.
So
who you gonna go to, right? Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Probably go to the guy that went to the Diddy party with you. Oh yeah, Kendrick.
Yeah. See, and I'm just not plugged in on any of this shit. I don't know who's with who and who's beefing with who. It's just
no, it's not a beefing thing. Like it's supposed to come out. I guess it's getting the whole Diddy thing's kind of getting memory hold like everything else. But it in those circles, it's pretty widely stated that Jay-Z was just as bad as Diddy. And Jay-Z books the Super Bowl.
He books the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
He's
he
the
books
producer?
the Super Bowl halftime act. Yeah.
Weird.
So when you look at it and you're like, oh, Wayne probably didn't take a dick in the ass. What have you been up to, Kendrick?
Yeah. That's what's that in your mouth there, buddy? All right. I'm going to try and do our old way of recording because I did have an Apple update recently. So I'm going to see if it works. So here we go. Do we want to start off with
let's just go down the list.
Let's just go down the list. I think that's best. They all kind of lead to each other, right? So
we were just talking about hot Congress people. I actually had Anna and Brobert. They were the same person in my head for quite a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then we can get to it when we get to her. But it looks like she actually fights for her constituents, and
yeah, I think she's the real deal. She's a true believer, and she's not fucking around.
As far as a politician can go.
As far as a politician, yes, there has to be a caveat like that on every politician. Yes, I think Nancy Mace is hot, but she's probably a fucking corrupt criminal. I don't, it is what it is.
But she was in Maxim, so we'll give her that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, here's Elon Musk in the Oval Office with his boy and Donald Trump.
So at a high level, if you say what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, FAX, we would have to, if you
I thought that was great that he interrupted him. That's awesome.
I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If if there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you asked the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense, but if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country. And it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
All right. First off, I would like to add that we don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic.
I was so ready to go off.
Were you? Okay, sorry. I took your, but it's just so infuriating that, like, yes, we do have democratic processes within our republic, but to just, like, this is something that's bothered me a lot about these turncoats, essentially. Like, Elon was a liberal forever. Maybe he was more of a libertarian, but he had a lot of liberal, like,
he's
policies.
A self-stated socialist.
Yeah, he was all in on, like, universal basic income and all this shit. I don't think that these guys are necessarily good for right-wing politics. I think they're pushing the Overton window further left within the Republican Party. So they're really just pushing the Republican Party further to the liberals. You've got guys like Eric Weinstein. Brett Weinstein's the worst. He was on Rogan this week, and Rogan just instantly turned into a fucking gay liberal as soon as he came on. And they're talking about universal basic income, and I was for it, but I don't know if human nature and blah, blah, blah. And they just go on and on and on. And it's just like, ugh. And they don't once look at the economic issue with communism, because that's all universal basic income is communism. And, like, if I'm sitting there, I'm going to ask, what's the number? How much? How much are you going to give everybody each month? What is a fair assessment of a living wage? Are we talking $1,200 like in the pandemic? That wouldn't help me much, you know. It would, but not like, you know,
that's a couple tanks of
replace
gas.
everything. Like, so we're talking more about like $5,000 a person, and that comes out to about $1.5 trillion per month if you give it to every American, which they're not going to give it to every American. They're oh, well, rich people don't need it. So pretty soon they're going to narrow it down to a certain sector of the population who's going to get it. And it's just going to be welfare. It's just going to be an expanded welfare program, you know?
Yeah. Anything the government puts their hands on, I want nothing to do with. But let's double click on that word democracy.
Yeah.
Because you hear it so much in the media. It's a threat to democracy.
Bureaucracy.
Putin is stealing democracy from Ukraine. Number one, Zelensky's a dictator.
Yeah.
He is not a democratically elected president. he was replaced by the United States. He replaced somebody by the United States in a coup. And he has gone on to shut down churches. He's gone down on to cancel federal elections. And you can say, well, they're at war. Well, we were at fucking war during World War II, Vietnam, whatever, and we still had our elections. He's just a dictator. And fine, he's a dictator. But like, let's not pretend that we're saving democracy. And I think that the old guard Washington people, not just Democrats, but like the old guard Washington people have changed the word democracy to mean whatever the fuck is going on right now, where they get to rule over us.
Yeah. Like
Because
Michael Malice always says, replace democracy with hegemony.
Yeah. And they're scared because they're losing that. So this coup and the fascist, like calling Trump a fascist by limiting the size of government is one of the most retarded things I've heard all week or all year or in my lifetime. Fascists don't give you more gun rights, and they don't reduce the size of government. So whatever this word democracy is, like, let's pull the mask off and see what you actually fucking mean.
Yeah.
Because we're a constitutional republic. We aren't even a fucking democracy. So you can take that and shove it up your ass too.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Another thing that pissed me off about that was he goes, look, there's good people within these. No, there's not. Like, these people are all lazy. They're not doing anything. Sure, there's some people who like treat their families well within these institutions. But the fact that he's going, oh, there's good people and we're going to let them stay. All this is a temporary reprieve on this shit. If they don't get rid of these institutions completely, like USAID has to go completely. You cannot let one person stay within that program, because the next time we get Democrats in, they're just going to go right back to the scam. You know, and they've got a fucking, like, a perfect window for it right there. It's like, oh, well, who cares? We'll just let it go for a couple years. As soon as we get back into power and people go back to sleep again, we'll just get it going. Like, when I was in college, the big thing that they were complaining about in all my books was industry capture. Oh my God, my books were all written while Trump was in office. Oh, he's putting people within these institutions that are antithetical to him and they're destroying them from within and blah, 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 blah. Just, you know, screaming liberals, hairs on fire. And by the time I'm reading it, Biden is in office and everything that Trump did had been erased and they had already gone back to, you know, system is normal. Like, it was all for nothing. So unless they actually abolish some of these agencies, we're going to go back to it at some point.
Yeah, I agree. But when you think about there's some good people with the numbers that they're putting up, if you're cutting from 10,000 to 400, like maybe there were 400 good people there.
But how do you even measure that? So what? They're nice to their
I'm
kids?
sure they have an algorithm.
They're fucking stealing from us.
Yeah.
This is not
like,
doing anyone any
those
good.
Are the numbers that we get to deal with. I'm good with it.
Yeah, like these people are literally stealing our money and giving it away to people who don't fucking deserve it. You know, you're enriching the political class. You're enriching the, you know, political elite in Africa or wherever else you're giving them. None of this. One thing that I wanted to talk about during this is, like, they talk like money isn't fungible. Like, oh, we were giving it to this for this purpose. It's like, yeah, well, it ended up doing that. So it doesn't matter why you gave it to them.
$3 million for Chelsea Clinton's wedding. And they traced it.
It's fucking
and it's
crazy.
Like, oh, destroying democracy. So what, nobody's going to want to be president again?
Yeah.
Because their kid can't get money from USAID to pay for their fucking wedding in their mansion? Like, what are we destroying here? We're destroying this fucking piggy bank of looters and raiders. And I knew that we were getting looted. I just didn't know that it was so fucking blatant.
Yes, exactly. In your face. Like, we're seeing it right now. It's just, it's infuriating, you know, like,
I don't
for
think
somebody
that this
who's
made it on the
struggling, like,
docket.
I'm struggling to get by, period. Every fucking month I'm spending into my savings. I've got this ridiculous disability dispute going on from 17 or something like that. They fucked me over back then. We're still dealing with it. I was supposed to have my fucking hearing last month, but Jimmy Carter died, and then Biden forced all government employees not to go to work that day, and now my fucking hearing isn't until May. So it's more money that I have to spend out of my savings not working in order to still be eligible to do this dispute. It's costing me thousands of dollars. It's fucking infuriating. Like, I can imagine that, people who are doing okay don't really feel this the same as I do. Like, when I talk to my mom and her husband about this, yeah, they'll complain, but it's not really affecting them all that much in their daily lives. Where me, like, this is really killing me.
But and honestly, like it not affecting them in their daily lives is affecting what they leave behind them.
Exactly. And
You
you're
know, so
leaving
like,
it to a
I'll
child,
have
like,
a little less when I die.
and like, they have an 11-year-old. His kids are already in debt.
Yeah. It's infuriating. I don't know if this made it on the docket, but did you see that FEMA sent like $54 billion or 54 million to not billion to New York this week?
This fucking week. I can pull the video of what's her fucking face? Karine Jean-Pierre talking about it. Where is she?
We had to send Amish people to fix North Carolina because our government wouldn't, or the men, not we. I wasn't part of that.
Yeah.
But I'm becoming more and more fond of the Amish.
Where is she? Is this it? Yeah, here we go.
Administration of using former President Trump is accusing the Biden administration of using FEMA funding to support undocumented migrants. How is the White House responding to that?
I mean, it's just categorically false. It is not true. It is a false statement. And look, the fact of the matter is, I think Washington Post fact checker did a piece, and the headline recently, just moments ago,
Rest
not too
easy,
long ago,
people.
and the headline
The Post
was,
is on
no,
it.
Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants, but Trump did.
Former President
Trump did it. We didn't
know
do
you
any
are,
of
but
that.
what am
Trump
I?
did it. God, it's just infuriating. They'll lie straight to your face, and she's so fucking smug. Oh, how would you even have the
does
gall
she
to ask
have-
me a question like that?
Does she have immunity to just lie like that?
I don't know. It really is something, right? You think that you would be able to nail her on something. I don't know. Like, I guess
mean, who'd
that
wanna
job,
nail
you
her?
were just lying. Here's another interesting video that we can kind of piggyback off that. I didn't have this on the list, but this is interesting.
Migrants. I was a side administrator at the Row Hotel. So in the hotel, we have close to 5,000 migrants. If anything involving this hotel, I was helping run it. Everything ranging from doctor's visits to medication is paid for the migrants. Anything you can possibly think of, it's being given to them. Car seats, cribs for newborns. There's, I want to say, at least 2 to 3 babies a week being born at this hotel.
Citizens.
The migrants being in those hotels have destroyed them. There's a lot of alcohol in these rooms. Housekeeping is there all week, and they'll clean it, and by the end of the night, there's kids getting drunk together. There's people hooking up with each other. There's multiple guns.
They just want to
in
be
these rooms
hardworking
as well.
Americans, Dan.
The alarming thing is that this hotel is meant to be a family hotel.
You were actually showing me some text messages between a social worker about a drunk 10-year-old in this hotel. Can you talk to us about what happened there?
This is wild.
Yeah, it was a drunk 10-year-old who was caught with a 14 and a 12-year-old, and all three of them were intoxicated. And when we looked them up in the system, the parents had checked out 2 days ago.
So their parents just left them there?
Yeah, the parents will leave the kids unattended in the hotel. We heard a security guard start yelling, there's a gun on site, there's a gun on site. It was probably an upset person that we had kicked out of the hotel. I myself had been assaulted. I've seen other people get assaulted. I've had threats saying, we'll be waiting for you guys outside. There's
Carrying a
been
knife
times
and a
where
machete.
staff has had to be, escorted to their cars, to their trains.
Because the migrants are threatening them.
Yeah. Often at times there was migrants causing chaos with shoplifting. The one instant where I showed you that video, aside from being caught shoplifting, they started getting physical. And a lot of the times it was, go calm the migrant down, get him inside the hotel. I've been doing this for 5 years, and in my 5 years, this has been the worst experience by far. The city of New York.
So this is that guy's name is Carlos, and he was being interviewed by Selena Gomez. So I guess they're both just self-hating racists.
That's insane. So before in that video, before you got on to like leaving the kids, drunk, guns, all that, but like the state of that hotel, I think is what the state of society would be with universal basic income.
That is a great fucking point, man. Our place is destroyed. These people have zero interest in getting a job. They just want handouts.
Yeah.
And like all we hear is, it's going to make us stronger. Diversity makes us stronger. It's like, this is not helping
I know how to make a taco.
Anybody.
The fuck out of here.
No shit. I live in Idaho, and we have awful Mexican food here. They're not bringing anything. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't know how the same Mexicans from California can cook shitty in Idaho. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Should we get back to some Trump and Elon? Or you want to move on to something else? I think we could probably move on.
No. I want to.
Oh, there is one I do want to play about this retirement.
No, do you have the clip where they said that they're looking at how do government makers make $200K a year?
Yep, I got it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million.
Right.
Etc.
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, if you look at, say Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So they say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization. So then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, it's just common sense. It's not it's not draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security.
Oops.
And we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out.
That is something. Go ahead, Dan.
It's what a fucking fascist. What a fascist trying to destroy democracy. The fuck? Like, and the thing is, I feel bad for people that honestly think that because they bought the propaganda. And the propaganda, like, there's a lot at stake. All of the propagandists out there say, oh, threat to democracy. They're all losing their fucking piggy banks.
Yeah.
They're all about to feel the pain that you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
And they don't want that.
And we should be kicking it to Elizabeth Warren right now, but I have a quick quibbit about this that I wanted to run by you about COBOL.
Sure.
So some of he's talking about like these common sense things that just aren't happening. And I think this could be because of COBOL. So for people who don't know, COBOL is a programming language that is probably 50 years old at this point, right?
Older.
Even older. Okay. The only people who know how to work on this shit are graybeards. And for the most part, they've all retired. I was listening to No Agenda this week, and John C. Dvorak, who's a tech journalist, and his son is a tech guy, had an interesting take on COBOL. He said that when all these graybeards shipped out and they moved in the new kids, they told all the kids, don't fuck with anything because you don't know what you're doing. And if you fuck with it, things are going to get out of control, and we don't have anybody to fix it, essentially, because all the graybeards have retired, and we have to pay them millions of dollars to come in and clean up your guys' mistakes. So I think that these are antiquated programs running on old software and old programming languages that lead to dead ends like he's talking about. Like, why can't we figure this out? It's like the pay list. And so the theory is that Elon and Doge are going to clear out COBOL and go to a completely new system, completely new programming language, and redo everything. And the thought amongst the tech community is it's not going to work. At least right away. It's not going to work. It's going to fuck everything up. And the example that they used was the IRS. And essentially, we're going to be, their thought is we're going to be sending our money in this year, and COBOL's going to be gone. This new system's going to be in place, and they're not going to be able to figure out how to give us tax returns.
So 66 years old. COBOL is.
Yeah.
And I looked at this. I haven't thought about it since you brought it up over text message in quite a while. But our entire banking system's written on it.
Yep.
And just to give you some, like, how big organizations work, a guy invested in our company in 2014, and he had written in Lotus, which was like the precursor to Excel. I think it was on Macs. He had written this way for hotels to do accounting, and Hilton bought it from him. You know, he wrote this in the 80s. Hilton bought it from him, and they still call him every once in a while asking for advice.
Yeah,
they couldn't replace it. Now, when I looked at this problem before, the estimated cost to upgrade the systems of our banking system in general was about $1 trillion to switch.
Wow.
Now we've made a lot of progress in like software in general. If you have a kid or you're in college trying to do software, fucking quit. Don't send them to college to do software.
Yeah. Software
as a commodity, so it's just not going to be profitable very soon. With the large language models, and this wasn't around when I was thinking about this challenge, what I thought the banks were going to do is I thought that they were going to buy, because like these challenger banks pop up. There's one called Brex that does business. Like Cash App is turning into banks for unbankable people.
Yes, a lot of
And
like people. When I see people get arrested on the internet, I've got money in my Cash App.
Yeah, for unbankable people.
Yep.
And I thought that the older institutions were just going to buy these companies and eventually just kind of move, like kind of how Zelle became a thing, being able to send money without wire transfers, without fees. Like I can send to Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo through Zelle, and it all works without having to pay the $35 wire fee. I thought that the banks were just going to acquire the new technology and implement it, and just make all the new accounts go into the new technology, and when the old people die. But that didn't seem to happen. Now, with that being said, with the advancements in AI, you could basically take and say, all right, so for Treasury, you have an input, which is a payment, right? And then you have an output, and the payment goes. And there's something in the middle that is COBOL, language written. You can audit these systems and say, okay, large language model, watch these inputs, watch these outputs, give me something modern to put in the middle so that you unplug the input, and you plug it into the new software, unplug the output, you put in the new software, and it'll function in between. So I'm not as concerned as you are.
I didn't say I was concerned. I don't know anything about this. I was just
whoever said it just wasn't going to work.
I was just relaying what I heard because I thought you would have an interesting take on it.
It's not as scary as it sounds to me, but it is government.
Yeah.
So,
and dude, $1 trillion to upgrade the banking industry. Imagine if you had to do it through all of these ridiculous USAID style fucking slush funds. It's going to be expensive.
We have the right person on it.
Yeah, for sure.
I consider myself.
We have to
smart.
upgrade from COBOL at some point. It has to happen, right?
Yeah, and I could give you a reasonable pathway to do that, but I'm not Elon Musk.
Yeah, he's going to think of a completely different path.
And just to express my confidence in Elon and his ability to do these types of things, I think I've said it before on here, but I'm going to say it again. He built a data center in Memphis, Tennessee, and basically when you have these chips that process AI, and you only get so much throughput. He was able to stack them and build 10 times the throughput, which everybody said was impossible. And then he did it on the scale of like 100,000, which everybody said it wasn't going to be able to be done. That motherfucker did it in 60 days.
Yeah.
In every, the leading technologists were like, this will never happen. He's going to fail. There's no way that this will work. And he did it in 60. He not only did it, he did it spectacularly. Now, so if that's what I was saying earlier,
and I was sure I wanted to ask about that real quick. Do you think it's like Big Balls creating this, or is this Elon sketching out an idea on a napkin in a fucking coffee shop?
I think that he might be the best manager ever. So I think
he surrounds himself with talented people.
Yeah, that's the thing about being a good manager. It's not necessarily being able to do it yourself. Like, obviously,
Tesla failed.
You can do it yourself.
Tesla was the same brain type as Elon Musk, but he failed because he did everything on his own.
Yeah. So if he surrounds himself with people that he believes in and understand, and the other thing is, like, talking to a really smart person is really hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, trying to get to what, like, I when I would define my career for a long time is like, because I could talk nerd, or I could talk to really smart people that are not good socially, and translate that to like business use cases. But it's not easy to. So he finds these people that are extremely intelligent. He has these really weird abstract thoughts, and he's like, here's how I think we can implement it. And he's surrounded by these minds that are like, oh, maybe let's do this, maybe let's do that.
Here's my idea, make it happen.
Yeah.
That's a fucking that's how successful business people become successful, is they surround themselves with talented people who are, adding something to the business. One of my first questions for bartenders was always like, we run a successful business. How are you going to add to it? What are you going to do to improve our business, to make it better, to improve the customer experience? Like, what are you bringing to the table?
Yep.
And I think that was a good question to ask because it always caught people off guard. It was like, well, you know, when I worked here, I did this. And it's like, okay, well, that's your job. That's not anything spectacular. You know, you performed your job well. That wasn't my question. My question is, how are you going to improve the business? And a lot of times people would come in and somebody, like I remember the best answer I probably got was, I have a great personal, you know, network of people that I can call and bring in to the bar at some point. If we've got a slow day and there's nobody here, I can call somebody and get a group of people in here. And I was like, that is a great answer to that question. I like it,
absolutely.
you know? All right, back to the fraudsters being the loudest. Here's Elizabeth Warren being hassled.
Why are you so afraid of transparency? Why are you bothered by the fact that Elon Musk is attempting to expose all of this fraudulent spending? What is that about? What is the problem here? What is the problem with transparency? Do not touch me. Do not touch me. Senator Warren, I just want to answer a question. How did you get a $12 million net worth on a $200,000 salary in Congress? How did you do that?
And she's a fake. Just like she said she was an Indian, and she wasn't an Indian. You have more Indian blood in you than she has. She went to college based on the fact that she was an Indian. She got jobs based on the fact that she was an Indian. She's a fake.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad he's back.
Will you play the other video that I sent you where she gets torn apart?
Here we go.
We are at an unprecedented moment. Our financial systems are facing huge risks from the economic chaos of President Trump and his co-president, Elon Musk.
President Trump ran on this. I mean, he said we're going to look for wasteful spending across our government. We're $36 trillion in debt, y'all. That's not only fiscally irresponsible, it is actually morally irresponsible. And the difference in this administration and the last administration is that President Trump is actually the final arbiter. And it's interesting that none of you had anything to say over the last 4 years when it is clear that our commander-in-chief was not in command. And if we're going to use the term co-president, then let's go back and say co-president Jake Sullivan, co-president Ron Klain, co-president Jill Biden. I mean, it seems that some of the biggest decisions were made during the president's afternoon nap time. And so I just think we need to be a little bit more honest about what's been laid out and what's actually occurring.
Go ahead, Dad.
So Trump is really funny, but man, she just fucking wrecked her.
Oh my God.
And like the whole narrative, she just chewed up that whole narrative in 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's wild that like nothing Elizabeth Warren says makes any sense. No. The economic disaster, it's like everything he's done has been economically responsible. Get rid of this waste.
She was advocating for RFK not to get confirmed.
Yep.
Because he would put the vaccine companies out of business.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. The left.
Whoa. What do you know there, Pocahontas? Like, why would the vaccine companies go out of business if RFK got elected?
You know, she's fucking the worst. I think her and Bernie's the worst. I couldn't find any good short Bernie clips from this week, but oh my God, has he just been awful on everything. Yeah. And it's like, dude, I remember when the left was against Big Pharma. Like, I remember Bernie being against Big Pharma at some point. Like, they are all of a sudden the company, the party of corruption and Big Pharma and the banking industry and all of the things that they used to stand for are now their, opposite running platform. It's really something. Why doesn't she just come out and say, like, we need elite rule?
I saw a tweet. I had to do a bunch of shit right before I came on, so I was just scrolling while I walked, and then I lost it. But it was like Bernie saying that Tulsi should not get confirmed, blah, blah, blah.
I couldn't find it.
And then it showed a video of Tulsi resigning from a position because of what the Democratic Party did to Bernie.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. Oh man,
she was like chair of something.
Yeah,
and she's like, I can't
be
a part of this
party chair.
Yeah, I can't be a part of this party that just stole this nomination from this man.
and he just rolled over and took it.
He rolled because he was
bent over and took it.
Controlled opposition.
Yeah.
He doesn't, I think this was a Dave Smith thought, and I'm just gonna parrot it.
Yeah.
Or it might have been Robbie. I was listening to a podcast today, and I think it was but basically Bernie's against billionaires, except for the billionaires that got made through big pharma.
Only 50 million out of 200 million.
Yeah, it just like he's so against these things, except when it's the people that are in like his protected class.
Yeah.
And how'd you make all your money?
And just for proof of all this, here's Elizabeth Warren in 2010.
When that much money disappears, it's usually because somebody broke some laws somewhere. But if we don't look, if we don't ask, if we don't uncover it and make it all public, we'll never find out.
We are here to fight back.
Fleetwood Mac's Sweet Little Lies in the background. Nice touch. I liked that. That was fun. Dude,
you know what
it's like a Bond villain bragging about their crimes to you. Like, they just do it. It's so fucking wild how they just brag about their crimes in public.
I say all of this and I shit on them, but if I had a job where everybody was stealing tens of millions of dollars and everybody was on the take, I'd probably take it.
You would. I mean, you're within this fucking evil institution. Yeah, like, it would just happen. Like, I have a bit of I'm kind of a hypocrite. I'm a fucking anarchist. I don't believe that any of this shit exists. Yet I'm going through with this disability, thing.
You have to live in the world that you live in.
Exactly. And like, I was explaining that to somebody the other day. They were asking me like, why, that, and I was like, dude, this is the world we live in. If like, in order for me to keep insurance, like, I have to have insurance because of how injured I've gotten, and workers' comp's awful about covering anything. They won't cover most of my medications because they just decide what I need and what I don't need. And if I have something related to my injury 10 years from now, they're going to do everything in their power to say it has nothing to do with it. So like, I have to have insurance. If I don't have insurance, I'm fucked. If I go get a job, I can't make much money because if I make a certain amount of money, then I can't have insurance anymore. I'm not qualified for a job that's going to give you insurance, that's going to make, any job like that I take is not going to pay me close to as much as I would make bartending. So like, I'm in a bad fucking spot. And it's because of this corrupt world that we live in. They want to keep you under their thumb. Like, they don't want me to get off of Medicare and Medicaid. They want me on it. They don't want to give me disability for some reason, but they definitely want to keep you on Medicare.
Well, yeah. I was just talking to my mom today, and she was very happy that she got on some program through her doctors because they give her a shot that costs $7,000 every month.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And
I take like $500 worth of medications a month.
One shot.
Yeah.
One shot every month, $7,000. How much of that is the doctor seeing not from Medicaid?
Yeah. They're getting kickbacks on this shit.
Oh, yeah.
There are. It's really fucked up, man. Like, it's not a position I want to be in, but it's also not a position that I'm like really capable of getting out of at this point. Like, I'm fucked, and it's just the way it is, like, you can't make the enemy of the good, perfect. I don't know that whole fucking thing, but you know what I'm saying. It's a fucked up spot to be in.
With the amount of corruption in our healthcare system, the only way that I would trust so I go to a holistic or video call with a holistic doctor whenever I'm sick. But anything inside of our healthcare system, the only people that are able to get like a true answer, not a, hey, you need this $7,000 a month shot, is people who can afford concierge healthcare.
Yeah.
Where the doctor, and it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just to be on this list of people that this doctor only sees, and this doctor only advises you based on the right thing for you, not based on the kickbacks that they're getting.
Yeah, you heard what Chamath said on.
Nobody can.
You heard what Chamath said on All In this week. He has a doctor in Los Angeles and a doctor in San Francisco. He goes to each of them, and then he compares the results. And it's costing him thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. But that's what you've got to do in order to get good health care in this country. I got really lucky when I got hurt that I'm an asshole and that I did get some good advice when I was in the hospital. Like, the best advice that I got bad advice in the hospital too, but the best advice I got was being hurt is your job now. You're never going to get what you deserve out of this. You need to milk them for every penny, every therapy, every doctor, everything you possibly can. And when they sent me to, you know how we're talking exactly like this. They have their guys that they go to, Medicare, workers' comp. They know who to go to that's going to give them the best deal. They sent me to this guy in Oregon who wanted to take my arm in a different spot. He wanted to give me a hook only. And when I asked him about a prosthetic hand, he goes, well, you know, insurance isn't going to give you one. You don't have any kids or anything. Maybe after you get married and have some kids, then we'll ask workers' comp for it, because then you're going to have better grounds to stand on to get it. But you don't have a chance of getting it now. And I was just like, well, what the fuck? Like, I've talked to other people that have gotten workers' comp hands from different states. Like, is this just the state? Is this the doctor? And I looked up the doctor and I found out that he's their fucking guy. And it's the worst possible person that you could go to in the West Coast. And I did my research and found my rights as a patient of workers' comp. And if you have to have surgery, you are automatically granted the right to a second opinion. So I got on the internet and I looked up the best hand surgeons in this country. Not much of a difference there. And I found a guy at the Mayo Clinic, the best hospital in this fucking country. And I went to him, and immediately they were like, oh, you're young, you're active. We're going to give you everything we possibly can. We're going to give you a hand. We're going to give you the best hook. Like, we're going to do the best we possibly can for you. And I was just like, this is not even like a close decision. You go to the best place and you get the best shit. Like, that's what I should
figured out how to get bribes from the prosthetic company, and the other guy didn't. He gets his bribes from the insurance company.
Exactly. So get this. They got sick of managing my care on a day-to-day basis, so they hired an outside company to come in and manage my health, just to be like a management company. And they denied my claim from the Mayo Clinic immediately. They're like, oh, no, we're not giving you that shit. And it went into a dispute, and that third party got involved as an arbiter. And they looked at both of the plans, and they were like, well, clearly we're going with Mayo. You can't say that this guy and this random, because I was going to get surgery here in Idaho by just the local hand surgeon and then go there and have my prosthetics built. They were just like, no, this is ridiculous. He's going to the Mayo Clinic. He's having his prosthetic built at the same place where he's getting his amputation. We're going to do all of because they, like, when I went there, they were like, measure, tattoo, go to the hand surgeon. He'd do x-rays, measure again, tattoo, and like got it down right. And, you know, most people who get hurt on workers' comp don't know any of that shit. And they just go to that guy and they get fucked.
Do you know what happened to your hand after the surgery?
I don't. I didn't think about it.
I want to frame that bitch.
I know. I didn't think about it till later. I get weird messages on like Facebook Messenger every once in a while. It's like, hey, my best friend's an amputee. How are you? And it's like, you're fucking weird. Hey, I'm doing an art project. Do you happen to have your old hand? It's like, ew. I seriously got that once. And it's just like, ew, you're fucking weird.
I respect that one.
Yeah, I get shit like that quite a bit. Oh my God, my fucking Siri just went off on my computer. Get out of here. I don't know how that happened. Well, should we go to Anna Paulina before we get out of here?
Actually, Anna Paulina she's opening, or she's trying to create an oversight committee for JFK.
Yeah.
MLK.
But
I want to talk about AI agents.
Sure.
Because I think it's for the benefit.
And then I have one.
Anybody.
I want to play that Canadian guy's video real quick and just let's do your AI thing first.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not in a hurry. We can go a little over too.
Perfect.
But so there's this somewhat new thing called AI agents, and basically you can everybody should be using them. You can use them all the way to the point of they'll call and make restaurant reservations for you and tell them your allergies and preferences. You can look at like big data sets. I'm in the process of building my own. It's not as easy as people make it out to be, but this is like, if you're not getting on AI agents now, you are going to be so far. And the thing is, you're going to be so far behind. And the thing is, it's easy enough to where if you put in time to work on it, I use ChatGPT to help me debug things like, hey, I hit a wall here. Here's a screenshot of what I'm working on. What should I do? And it's able to answer those questions. You're in 5 years, if you're not using them, you're going to be so far behind everybody. It'd be like not having a cell phone.
How do you build one?
So, I so I'm sending you a link to the how I or
You could share
my
your
first
screen.
million podcast.
You could share your screen if you want. Oh, I
Um,
got it. Never mind. That was quick.
And that no, don't play that.
Okay.
Just throw it in the show notes.
Okay, perfect.
So that one, this guy runs a multi-$100 million company, and he talks about all the automations that he uses and how he's using it. And then the second one is a demo on how to build one by this crazy Russian guy. It's hard for me to listen to, but this is what I'm following as I build it. So far, I got to the point where I can talk into my computer and say, like, what happens when you mix the colors yellow and blue, and then I'll get a Telegram message back, and it tells me it'll be green. So like, and I've got like 5 or 6 hours into it, but like, it is the next thing, and it can empower anybody, and they're only going to get smarter, and it'll just make life easier. So I encourage everybody to look at the show notes. Those links will be in there.
Do you think it'll be capable of producing this show soon?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
I would love to automate my production. There's a lot of stuff that I would like to do, but I just don't have the time a lot of the time.
You can automate booking right now.
Well, that's pretty cool. My sister's going to be out of a job in fucking no time. Like, people really need to pay attention to this shit. Like, if this thing can do your job, think about that and figure out how you're going to, like, you need to figure out how to leverage this to make you better at your job. That's your only fucking shot, because they're going to have translators for these things. Like, if these things can do your job for you, they'll just get rid of you, hire somebody for half your wage that can communicate with this thing better than you can. So, like, this is serious, people. Yeah. You really got to look into this shit and figure out if this can do your job for you. Because if it can, you're fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. And the tools are in the show notes of this. You can say "Too hard for the radio saved my life and my job."
That'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah. You know.
All right, let's go on to the crackhead Rob Ford's brother.
Is that the Canadian guy?
Doug Ford. Yes.
Oh shit! Here we go.
I want to further integrate our energy and electricity grids. People don't realize, as we stand right here, right now, we can deliver from Ontario electricity as far south as Florida. In just a moment's notice, we can flick on the switch or flick off the switch. I prefer flicking on all the switches. And encourage more exports of Canadian energy and electricity to the U.S. to power your economic growth.
This guy's so full of shit. That infrastructure does not exist right now. You might be able to hobble some shit together to get it down there, but this is something we've gone over on the podcast so many fucking times. The longer your power lines, the more you lose, the more it costs. Our power lines are not efficient. They run at 30% efficiency at the fucking highest. Most of our energy is wasted through heat bleed off, like through your household appliances, through line loss in transmission lines. Let me just go through this real quick. So from Ontario to Miami is approximately 1,500 miles. It would probably be longer than that after you built everything, because you're not just going to be able to go in a straight line. You're going to have to steal a bunch of land in order to do this, and you can't always steal land in a straight line in this country. So let's see. 30 miles, where are we at? There, approximately 30% of the transmitted energy would be lost over 1,500 miles. This would cost an extra 10 cents per kilowatt hour, which means an extra $3 per kilowatt hour. you are almost doubling your costs. It's 30%. So the delivered cost would increase by $3 per kilowatt hour or 30% due to transmission losses over 1,500 miles. Then we'll talk about how much this would cost to build if they actually did build this infrastructure and didn't just tie into old shit that we already have that doesn't have the capacity. That's what he's like. The lines might exist. That doesn't mean they have the capacity to transfer that energy to where you want it, you know? So 500 kV lines cost $1.5 million per mile and up to $3 million a mile in places like California. So I would say somewhere between $1 to $3 million on this potential project per mile after Trump gets rid of some regulations. It would cost $2.25 billion. If we wanted to up it to 765 kV, it would cost $5.2 million a mile and $7.8 billion to build that line. It's
so less than the cost of 8 EV chargers.
But it's just it's so much better to just build fucking energy plants where you're going to use it. It's ridiculous to transport energy that far.
I have to believe that our grids are somewhat intertwined, and here's why.
They are, but they're over capacity right now. If you've got a 500 kV tower that's, goes across the border from here to Canada, that thing is at full capacity already. Everything we have is at full capacity. Just because the lines exist does not mean they have the capacity to handle that extra energy.
Completely different direction with that.
Okay, go ahead.
I read that as a threat that he could shut off power to America.
Oh, no.
And yes, absolutely. Remember 2002 when a transformer at Niagara Falls blew up?
Yeah.
And you might not have felt it because you weren't on the East Coast, but I was working in Ohio. And from Ohio to New York City, there was no power. And that was his thinly veiled threat there. Now, what that dumbass doesn't realize is they don't have west to east oil flow without going through America. And, okay, shut off our power. We'll shut off all of your fucking oil, you fucking crackheads, brother. And then there's a super liberal Indian guy that wears his turban everywhere.
Yep, I've seen him.
He was calling on Canadians to take up arms. What are they going to take up? Pitchforks? Because they certainly don't have any fucking guns. They confiscated the guns and sent them to democracy in Ukraine.
Yeah. I'm asking ChatGPT right now how much energy we get from Canada. Let's just see what it says. What percentage of the U.S. electricity comes from Canada? In 2023, 2.5%. They can't do shit. That's nothing. You might be able to, dim the lights in a couple areas, but it's not going to do a fucking thing.
But no,
there's nothing that they could do to us. There's nothing
for
that
any of those
Canada
people
do.
to flex. Come now. I'm a very anti-war, very peaceful person, but shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
you're gonna wake up some hillbillies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here. I hate Canadians. Fucking Canada.
My best friend's Canadian.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
No, I mean, I've had some friends that are Canadian too, but the state itself, they're just the worst.
The People's Republic of Canada.
Yeah, Candackistan.
And on that note,
we are out of here. There we go. Boom. We'll do this again, Dan. That was fun. That was a good one.
Sounds good.
I'll
see you next week.
Figured it all out.
Oh yeah, always fun.
I hit the wrong button. Fuck it. We're out of here. Good night, everyone.